The rain came down in sheets, blurring the neon lights of the diner into a watercolor haze. Tom Harper stood under the awning, his worn jacket soaked through, clutching a crumpled job application. The sign in the window read, "Dishwasher wanted," and though it was a far cry from his old life, it was a lifeline. At 38, Tom was a shadow of the man he'd been, a widower, a father, a man who'd lost his way. His daughter, Lily, waited at home, her 8-year-old heart too young to carry the weight of their struggles, but old enough to notice the empty fridge. He pushed open the diner's door, the bell jingling faintly. The warmth hit him first, then the smell of coffee and fried onions. The place was small, cozy, with red vinyl booths and a jukebox humming in the corner. A woman stood behind the counter, her auburn hair tied back, her eyes sharp but kind. She looked about his age, maybe a little older, with a presence that filled the room. The name tag on her apron read Clara. "You here for the job?" she asked, wiping her hands on a towel. Tom nodded, suddenly aware of his dripping clothes and unshaven face. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Tom Harper. I saw the sign." She gestured to a stool. "Sit. Let's talk." He hesitated, then slid onto the seat, placing the application on the counter. His hand shook slightly, not from the cold, but from the weight of the last 2 years. His wife, Sarah, had died in a car accident, leaving him and Lily to navigate a world that felt like it had turned against them. He'd been a mechanic once, running his own shop, but grief and bad luck had stripped it all away. Now, he was here, applying to wash dishes, hoping to keep the lights on. Clara scanned the application, her eyes lingering on the gaps in his work history. "You've been out of work a while." "Yeah," he said, voice low. "Things got tough. But I'm reliable. I'll work hard." She set the paper down and leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "Tom, do you believe in destiny?" The question caught him off guard. He blinked, unsure if he'd heard her right. "Destiny? I don't know. I haven't thought about it much." Clara smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips. "Humor me. Do you think things happen for a reason, or is it all just chance?" Tom shifted, uncomfortable. He wanted to talk about shifts, wages, anything but this. But her eyes held him, steady and expectant. "I used to think there was a plan," he said finally, "back when life made sense. No? I think you just keep going, no matter what hits you." She nodded, as if his answer told her more than he'd meant to share. "Fair enough. Tell you what, come back tomorrow night. We'll try you out. But I'm warning you, this place has a way of changing people." He didn't know what to make of that, but he mumbled a thank you and left, the rain still falling, his heart a little lighter. The diner, called Clara's Place, was a hub of quiet miracles, though Tom didn't know it yet. His first shift was a blur of steaming water, greasy plates, and the clatter of the kitchen. The staff, a wiry cook named Javier, a waitress named Marla who called everyone sugar, and a busboy named Ethan who barely spoke, worked like a family, trading jokes and barbs. Clara moved among them, her laughter bright, her authority gentle but firm. Tom kept his head down, scrubbing pots until his hands were raw, grateful for the work. Lily was his anchor. Every night, he'd come home to their tiny apartment, where she'd be curled up with a library book, her blonde curls falling over her face. She'd ask about his day, and he'd spin stories about the diner, making it sound like an adventure. "There's a jukebox that plays magic songs," he'd say, and she'd giggle, believing him. But the truth was harder. Their savings were gone, the rent was late, and Lily's school shoes were falling apart. The dishwasher job paid enough to keep them afloat, but only just. Clara noticed things. She noticed how Tom flinched when someone mentioned family. She noticed the way he'd slip leftover rolls into his pocket, no doubt for Lily. And she noticed the quiet strength in him, the way he worked without complaint, even when the hours stretched late. One night, after the diner had closed, she found him in the kitchen, staring at a stack of bills he'd pulled from his wallet. "Rough day?" she asked, leaning against the doorway. He startled, shoving the bills away. "Just figuring things out." She didn't push. Instead, she handed him a coffee. "You're doing good work, Tom. Better than most." He took the mug, the warmth seeping into his hands. "Thanks. I need this job. More than you know." "I know more than you think," she said, her voice soft. "This diner's been my life for 15 years. I've seen people come and go, some broken, some lost. But you've got something worth fighting for." He looked at her, surprised. "You mean Lily?" "I mean you too. You're still here, Tom. That's no small thing." Her words stayed with him, a flicker of warmth in the cold. He didn't know Clara's story, but he sensed she carried her own scars. The diner wasn't just a business, it was a refuge, a place where people found second chances. He wondered what she'd lost to make her see the world that way. Weeks passed, and Tom settled into the rhythm of Clara's place. He learned the quirks of the ancient dishwasher, the songs Marla loved on the jukebox, the way Javier snuck extra food onto plates for regulars who looked hungry. He started to feel like he belonged, though he kept his distance, afraid to let anyone too close. Grief had taught him that love came with a cost. Lily, though, was his light. She'd draw pictures for him, crayon sketches of the diner, with Clara as a queen and Tom as a knight. He'd tack them up in the kitchen, and the staff would ooh and ah, making Lily beam when she visited. Clara took a shine to her, slipping her milkshakes and teaching her how to fold napkins into swans. "She's got your heart," Clara told Tom once, and he couldn't argue. But the world outside the diner was relentless. The landlord raised the rent, and Lily caught a cold that lingered, her cough echoing through their thin walls. Tom picked up extra shifts, but it wasn't enough. He started skipping meals to save money, his face growing gaunt. Clara noticed, of course. One night, she cornered him in the kitchen. "You're not eating," she said, arms crossed. "I'm fine," he lied. She didn't buy it. "Wait here." She disappeared into the office and returned with an envelope. Inside was $500 in cash. "Consider it in advance." He stared at the money, his throat tight. "I can't take this." "You can, and you will," she said firmly. "You're not alone, Tom. Not here." He wanted to argue, but the weight of her kindness was too much. He took the envelope, his eyes burning. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I believe in you," she said simply. "And because I know what it's like to need a hand." That night, he paid the rent and bought medicine for Lily. As she slept, her breathing easier, he sat by her bed, the envelope still in his pocket. Clara's words echoed: destiny, kindness, belief. He didn't know if he believed in fate, but he was starting to believe in her. The diner had its own heartbeat, a pulse of stories that unfolded in quiet moments. There was the old man who came every Tuesday, leaving poems on napkins for his late wife. The teenage runaway who Clara hired as a part-time busboy, giving him a safe place to land. The single mom who cried when Javier packed her kids' leftovers in a to-go box, saying it was their only meal that day. Tom saw it all, and slowly, he began to understand Clara's question about destiny. Maybe it wasn't about grand plans, but about the small choices that wove people together. One evening, a stranger walked into the diner, a man in a suit, polished and out of place. He introduced himself as Richard Hale, a developer. He had an offer for Clara: sell the diner, and he'd make her rich. The land was prime for condos, he said, and the neighborhood was changing. Clara listened politely, her face unreadable, then said, "This place isn't for sale." Hale pressed, his voice smooth. "Think about it. You could retire, travel, live a little. Why keep slaving away here?" Clara's eyes flickered with something fierce. "Because this is home. Not just for me, but for everyone who walks through that door." Hale left, but Tom saw the worry in Clara's face. Later, he overheard her talking to Javier. The city was raising property taxes, and the diner was barely breaking even. She'd been dipping into her savings to keep it afloat, to pay people like Tom, to help customers who couldn't afford their meals. The weight of it was crushing her, but she hid it behind her smile. Tom couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do something. He wasn't just a dishwasher anymore. He was part of this place, part of Clara's fight. He started small, organizing a fundraiser with Marla's help. They put up flyers, spread the word on social media, and planned a community night at the diner. Lily helped, drawing posters with hearts and stars, her excitement contagious. The night of the fundraiser, the diner was packed. Regulars showed up, along with neighbors, strangers, even the old man with his poems. Javier cooked mountains of pancakes, Marla sang with the jukebox, and Ethan, usually silent, told stories that made everyone laugh. Lily danced between tables, her cough gone, her smile bright. Tom worked the kitchen, his heart full, watching Clara move through the crowd, her eyes shining with gratitude. They raised $3,000, not enough to solve everything, but enough to buy time. As the night wound down, Clara pulled Tom aside. "This was your idea, wasn't it?" He shrugged, embarrassed. "We all did it." She shook her head, her voice soft. "You're a good man, Tom Harper. Don't ever forget that." He looked at her, seeing the woman who'd asked him about destiny, who'd given him a chance when he had nothing. "Clara, why do you keep this place going? You could walk away." She smiled, but there was pain behind it. "Because I was like you once, lost, alone, thinking the world had given up on me. Someone gave me a hand, and it changed everything." This diner is my way of paying it back. He nodded, understanding more than he could say. For the first time in years, he felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. The fundraiser was a spark, but the fire came later. Hale returned, this time with a lawyer and a new offer, double the money, but with a deadline. The city was on his side, he said, and taxes would bury Clara if she didn't sell. The staff rallied, but the numbers were brutal. Clara spent nights poring over books, her face drawn. Tom saw her slipping, the weight of the diner pulling her under. He couldn't let it happen. Not to Clara, not to the place that had saved him. He started digging, using skills he'd forgotten he had. He'd been good with numbers once, before grief dulled his edges. He found a grant for small businesses, helped Clara apply, and worked with Marla to cut costs without cutting heart. He talked to regulars, who spread the word, bringing in new customers. Lily even started a Save Clara's Place campaign at school, her classmates' parents showing up with donations. But the real turning point came when Tom found an old photo in the diner's storage, a picture of Clara, younger, with a man and a little girl. He asked Javier about it, and the cook's face softened. Her husband and daughter, he said. Car accident, 10 years ago. She opened this place to honor them. It's why she fights so hard. Tom understood then. Clara's question about destiny wasn't just philosophy, it was her lifeline, her way of making sense of loss. He knew that pain, knew what it took to keep going. He went to her that night, the photo in his hand. You never told me, he said, setting it on the counter. She looked at the picture, her eyes glistening. It's not something I talk about. I get it, he said. But you need to know you're not alone either. We're in this together. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. Thank you, Tom. The climax came on a cold December night. Hale's deadline loomed, and the grant hadn't come through. The diner was full, the jukebox playing softly, when Clara gathered the staff and regulars. She stood on a chair, her voice steady but raw. I've given everything to this place, she said. And I'd do it again. But I need to be honest, we might lose it. I just want you to know what you've meant to me. This isn't just a diner. It's family. The room was silent. Then Marla started clapping, slow and deliberate. Javier joined, then Ethan, then Tom, then everyone. The sound grew, a wave of love and defiance. Lily ran to Clara, hugging her legs, and the crowd parted as the old man with the poem stood. I wrote something, he said, his voice trembling. He read a poem about Clara's place, about broken hearts finding home, about kindness that changed the world. When he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Then the door opened, and a woman walked in, a city official Tom recognized from the grant application. She held an envelope. Clara, we got your application, she said. And your community's letters, your fundraiser, your story, it moved us. You've been approved for the grant. It's enough to cover the taxes and then some. The diner erupted in cheers. Clara sank onto a stool, her face in her hands, laughing and crying. Tom felt Lily's arms around him, her voice bright. We did it, Daddy. He looked at Clara, their eyes meeting across the room. She mouthed, thank you. And he knew it wasn't just for the grant. It was for believing, for fighting, for being part of her destiny. Months later, Clara's place was thriving. The grant had given it new life, and the community's love had made it a landmark. Tom was still washing dishes, but he'd started fixing things around the diner, leaky pipes, wobbly tables, even the jukebox. Clara promoted him to manager, and he enrolled in night classes, dreaming of opening his own shop again someday. Lily was growing, her laughter louder, her drawings brighter. She and Clara had a special bond, baking cookies in the diner's kitchen, swapping stories. Tom watched them, his heart full, knowing Sarah would be proud. One quiet night, as they locked up, Clara asked him again, do you believe in destiny now? He smiled, the weight of the past lighter than it had been. I believe in people. In you, in Lily, in this place. Maybe that's what destiny is. She laughed, her eyes warm. Close enough. They stepped into the night, the diner's lights glowing behind them, a beacon of kindness in a world that needed it. And Tom knew, whatever came next, they'd face it together.